to achieve. It's when you feel a total sense of belonging with your host culture. You have the concept of shared fate with the host culture. You identify there. You feel incredibly comfortable there. You look back and laugh about some of those shock experiences. And the adaptation phase is marked by incredible insight, I think, generally speaking.
So for me, for my adaptation phase, I'm going to read 2 journal entries. The first one is dated November 25th, 2009. Throwing out the things of your past culture is necessary for full assimilation. Don't forget the things of your past, just keep them in your heart and move on. You become indistinguishable from those that make up your new culture. This is, of course, the opposite of the immigrants when they came to America. Carmine and Carmela, they blended, became American. They didn't bother to teach my grandfather Julius the language, so he couldn't teach it to my father and then pass it down to me. No, I've taken it upon myself to save the cultural identity of my family and then our name for future generations. I speak in Italian, think in Italian, and get approached by Italians thinking I am a native. During my conversations with them, I asked them at the end where they thought I was from when they first saw me, and every single one of them said in that last month they thought that I was Italian. That constitutes authenticity to me. I say skip straight to the source, and that source gave me the answer I knew was there. What it meant to look Italian or be Italian, let's ask American popular culture, or let's not. The last 2 weeks, everything came together all at once. I knew where I stood within the culture. December 3rd, 2009. Sufi mysticism says, love in all its forms is the human being to find his true nature once again. There are as many ways of loving as there are people, and that wildflower variety is the great beauty of this dimension of existence. One cannot love another person until he completely loves himself. And as of now, I love myself, and I love my life. So love is pouring out of me, and I want to share it with the world. I have been enlightened. I have stepped out of the cave and seen past the illusionary figures that were mere shadows of reality or simulacrum of reality. My conscious mind cannot organize the sudden rush of all these different emotions. The first time in my life I am so content with my surroundings, the people, the culture, my schooling. Will the person I've become while here stick with me through life? Hume would say that identity is a bundle of interconnected perceptions. The memory of ourselves is fallible, a rhapsody and selective process of who we really are. So I write. I write in order to remember emotions, thoughts, and things of beauty. I seek truth, purity, and purpose in a world full of illusions. This is one part of my journey to a destination I do not yet know. To realize that the best part of your life is right now in the present. For when I read it again, it will be in my past. Will this be enough to bring me back where I am mentally at this very moment? Perhaps 110 years previous, when my ancestors stood on the shores of Naples looking out towards America, it would be written into the destiny of my family that America would be only temporary, and that it was up to me to come back. My talks with Virginia, getting my cappuccino every morning, pizza every afternoon, lasagna every evening, and wine every night. I'm a student of the culture, and I will continue to learn and grow beyond my physical existence here because fate has brought me here, and fate can bring me back. For my love affair with Italy and Europe is beginning to truly take shape. The feeling you get in the pit of your stomach when you're about to cry, but you can't figure out if you want to cry because you're so sad to leave, or cry because you're so thankful that it happened.
Really striking about both of the journal entries that you heard is this metaphor of a love affair, and you see this a lot in the literature. This experience is termed a love affair, and like so many love affairs, it doesn't end, it continues. And that's why Theorists just recently added a final phase, a new phase, a 5th phase to this process that prior to this had not been articulated. It's called the re-entry phase, and it hypothesizes that once you return to your original culture, to borrow from Robert Heinlein, you feel like a stranger in a strange land. All of a sudden, there's this weird realization that home isn't home anymore, and that the place that you now consider home isn't home either. And you're kind of in this weird in-between that's represented by a marked longing to return to the culture that you visited. It's also marked by feelings of depression and isolation. You feel like an outcast from what was once your original culture. And this feeling of being in between is really marked in the literature.
An Italian phrase is called colpo di fulmine, which translates to a bolt of lightning. A bolt that has reawoke my soul and once again given me the lust for life. I took my last photos, had my last slices of pizza, and said my goodbyes to amazing friends. So poetically, I went to dinner on the last night to the place that I went on my first. At that dinner, I had a conversation with my friend, and I started to say, well, if I was an Italian guy, I would do that too. And with no hesitation, she said, you are an Italian guy. And it hit me that at that moment I had it all figured out, the language, my photography, my place in the school, and I was leaving. And went to the airport that next day, and I called my friend Virginia as my last phone call in Italy, closed my eyes and opened them, and the wheels were touching the ground in New York, and the girl sitting next to me and I at the same time said, well, that's that. And I stepped off the plane, and I felt nothing. I felt empty almost. And for the first 2 weeks, I dreamt of Italy every single night, every night, vivid dreams. And when I woke, I had this feeling of amnesia, like that I lived this whole life and I didn't think that it was real. And I think that's why I love photography and my photos so much, is that every day I look at them and I know exactly how I felt at that very moment, who I was with, and it kind of gives me the opportunity to instantly transcend to that moment in time in my life. And I felt like an outsider. I feel now like a study abroad student in America, and I'm back at the spectator phase. I go out places and I refer to Americans as Americans, and I say they, like I'm not an American. And I've just kind of taken this whole different view on people, and I was starting to become bitter and even judgmental. And I would have to say that on the morning of January 12th, kind of put everything in perspective for me a little bit more for my re-entry phase. I drove down to school on a Sunday, got a call on a Monday that my father had tore his aorta from about his neck to his hip, and a call on Tuesday that he was in a coma. And the last time my father was in Italy was 22 years previous, after my mother had just had me with his best friend and my uncle Tony Pecorella. Tony, Sicilian-born, died suddenly 2 years ago of a heart attack, and was my only connection to anything authentic and genuine Italian, and was definitely one of my main driving forces for going to Italy. And you may ask, do you believe in fate? And I would concur that I do. My father and I being in Italy together was generations in the making. There's a wine bottle that sits on the desk in my room. It's called Taurazzi. This particular grape is grown on the mountainside of our hometown Torre de Nocelle. This grape yields one of, if not the best wines of the Mezzogiorno, and one that has been harvested and drank by my ancestors for hundreds of years. Like the blood that runs through my veins and the veins of my ancestors, this wine might as well have been the same. For now this wine sits empty on my desk, only filled with the olive branches from the sides of the mountains of our hometown. The last bottle of wine that I will ever share with my father for the rest of my life now, because of his condition. The last glasses that I would ever have. And I've been drinking wine with him since I was a little kid. And if on that Monday morning he would have passed away, how could I have been bitter or resentful? Because I got to experience something so amazing with the guy that I loved the most in my life. So whether we say it was fate, or my grandfather Julius, or my uncle Tony, some divine force brought us there together to experience all of it. And in a letter I wrote to my father that was to be given to him if and when he woke up from his coma. When you wake, you will live out the rest of your life free from stress and full of beauty. The beauties in life I so openly talk about because you gave me the opportunity to be exposed to them. My time in Europe has changed my life forever, and wherever I end up, I want you to know that everything you have given me, I hope to pass to my son, a son that I need you to live for so that you can meet. So we can all one day take a trip back to Italy together, resting in the fact that no matter where we go or who we become, the hands of our ancestors worked on this ground that we stand on, and all the sacrifices they made in their life would be for that moment. So, to everybody in this room, fate has brought you here, whether you think so or not, whether you were forced to come here or whether you chose it in your own free will. And I just want to say to everybody here that never stop seeking experience, and never stop seeking beauty, and never stop seeking what is real, because this is your life. This is it right here. And 14 out of 1 million people survived the operation, and he survived, and he's actually here right now.
Oh my